Now, since spring practice is now complete, let's take a closer look at who stuck out. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and help us get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the month. We'd really appreciate that. Now let's get straight into who we feel stepped up and earned recognition during the spring. Now let's take a look at the wide receiver position. As spring practice came to an end during the spring game, I noticed a couple players that kind of stuck out probably more than the others, and one has been looking pretty good all spring as the coaches have raved about him, and that's Billy Kemp the fourth, the transfer out of Virginia. So what have we learned? Well, we learned that Billy Kemp is probably the quarterback's go-to guy, as the Virginia transfer impressed not only Nebraska's coaching staff but all of the quarterbacks, and especially Jeff Sims. A matter of fact, the Huskers coaching staff cut back reps at going into the back end of the spring practices, right towards the end of spring, and I believe that probably was to see who else could step up, as they needed to know who in the wide receiver room could give them what they're looking for besides Kemp. Kemp made 3 big catches during the spring game, 2 receptions for 39 yards with a long of 24, and that third catch came on that 2-point conversion from quarterback Harburg. One of the biggest things we learned is you really need to get Kemp the ball and get the ball in his hands, as we found out that he adds not only the experience but the versatility and the toughness for such a little guy within this wide receiver room, especially from a 5'9" receiver. He also ran for 6 yards on 1 carry during the spring game, as the Huskers are trying to use him all over the field and trying to get that speed in any way they can. So I see Kemp being used on sweeps, quick screen passes, as he can definitely change the game just on one play. In last year's season, we know Trey Palmer was that go-to guy when we needed that touchdown or that big gain. So it looks like to me Kemp is going to probably fall into that shoes where where Palmer left off, to be that go-to guy when we need something come this fall and this season. The other receiver that took a big leap, especially after the spring game, is Marcus Washington. He's the transfer out of Texas that came over when Casey Thompson came over. We haven't heard a whole lot of Marcus throughout the spring, but he had a decent spring game as he had several big plays. He also had 3 catches for 42 yards and on limited play. So I could see Kemp and Washington being that 1-2 punch from the passing game. The big question is, do the Huskers have enough playmakers at the wide receiver position? Depth is not a problem. Got a lot of freshmen coming in, got some experience at the top, but do we have that playmaker, the next playmaker besides Kemp? We kind of need to know who's going to step up along with Kemp and Washington and be a playmaker themselves. Nebraska has several experienced wide receivers in this group, so let's look at who else that we think could probably step up. One of them is Isaiah Garcia Castaneda. We all know him as IGC. IGC is now back at Nebraska but didn't play in the spring game. He did make some huge plays last year during the season, and I could see him stepping up and taking over where he left off from last season. The other is Xavier Betts, which is one of our own out of Nebraska, but Xavier has been gone for a while and didn't get a chance to go through winter strength and conditioning, and trust me, that's a big deal. I mean, it's obvious that Xavier Betts is talented. He has excellent speed, good hands, and can be a big threat after he catches the ball. However, this sophomore has been off for about a year. I mean, he left the program Once wide receiver coach Mikey Joseph took over last season, he left the program. And like I said, he needs to get back into football shape after not conditioning with his teammates this winter. When he did arrive back on campus, the former Bellevue West wide receiver had to prove he deserved another chance. And Rhule even said, and Rhule did give him a fresh start and said to him he had a lot to prove. Now, Betts did start the spring game and recorded 1 reception for 4 yards, but he still has to prove he's reliable on game day. But we all know he's talented enough. The big question is how much missing the winter workouts and that winter strength and conditioning will affect his comeback, as he really needs to get back into that football shape. So how long is that going to take him? Hopefully he's using this off time to do that. He definitely has his work cut out for him. Now, let's not forget, we did get a transfer, a Baylor transfer, Joshua Fleeks this year, who played on the second team in the spring game and had a catch for 7 yards. The Huskers have some talent. Like I said, they have some talent in this wide receiver room, and their depth isn't really the concern. The concern is who's going to step up and prove themselves on the field besides Kemp and maybe Washington. The Huskers also will welcome 6 new freshmen come this summer camp, which includes the talented Malachi Coleman and a few other speedsters. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what Malachi Coleman can bring to the table. And will he be able to break into the lineup this coming fall as a freshman and make some big plays? We all need to keep an eye on him once he arrives. So tell me which freshman you think will make an instant impact this coming season. Do you think it would be Malachi Coleman? Do you think any will at all? None of these freshmen were able to enroll early, so that means we're not going to expect any of them until probably June or July at the earliest. But it's going to be a welcome addition to the depth inside that wide receiver room. And we definitely welcome Lincoln East Malachi Coleman, probably the big name out of these six freshmen, which he looks like a guy that could get on the field early and make some big plays. Another one, it could be Jaden Doss out of Missouri, or the Nashville native Demetrius Bell, which any of these 3 could make the field come this fall, or maybe even a couple of them. But I got a feeling we're going to hear 1 or 2 of these to really give us a good production. It's really going to boost this offense. The Huskers also have a couple of track and field stars coming in as well. And Omaha West Side's Jalen Lloyd and Texas Bay City's Bryce Turner. Both are extremely fast and excel at track as well as football. Both will play, both Lloyd and Turner will run track here at Nebraska and play on the football team. So we have some great depth and great speed at the wide receiver. So it's going to be really great to see these produce and give that offense another weapon besides the run game. And then we already seen that Jeff Sims can run the ball well too. So if we could get this going and the way the defense is looking, man, you never know how it's going to look. So let's break down how we feel who earned the starting positions at each wide receiver spot for this coming summer and fall camp. I think we all agree that senior Billy Kemp IV is our starting slot receiver. He's definitely a slot receiver at 5'9" and going to be a good one. And that's usually your third or fourth corner that's recovering him, or a linebacker if you catch him in the right defense. And he's going to be deadly against them defensive players. I think that the other one we could probably slot into a starting spot was probably senior Marcus Washington at wide receiver X position. I also feel IGC could grab that 3rd starting spot at wide receiver Z. So to me, them are your 3 starters. But don't get me wrong, if you're coming in with only 2 wide receivers, I kind of see then maybe Kemp moving over to that other wide receiver Z position, moving from slot to there. I just can't see them keeping him off the field. But you never know. And then I see if Xavier Betts, like I said, could come in, get in that shape. I could see him making a run for that wide receiver Z starting spot where IGC is, but if not, they're going to be a good 1-2 punch at that wide receiver Z, or even coming in and spelling a spot with Marcus Washington when he gets a breather coming in as well. But you're going to definitely see Betts on the field probably this year once he gets back into shape. Now, to me, the backups to all these three positions, again, I already brought up Xavier Betts being one of them backups, but another one is Thompson backing up IGC also at that wide receiver Z position. So kind of see IGC or Xavier Betts in that starting spot. I'm going to give it to IGC right now and Tavon. Now, let's look at the backups. Well, how do we think the backups is going to be? Again, on that wide receiver Z spot, I got IGC and Xavier Betts could be battling that starting spot, but I'm giving it to IGC right now. And then the backup's going to be Xavier Betts and Tavion Thompson. I see that as the wide receiver Z position, starter and backups. And the wide receiver X position, where Marcus Washington is, I see Malachi Coleman coming in and becoming the backup and getting on the field quite a bit. Behind him is probably going to be Jaden Doss backing up on that wide receiver X position. And then we got Joshua Fleeks probably coming in and backing up Billy Kemp and maybe getting some reps when Billy Kemp's off the field and resting. I definitely expect to see Joshua Fleeks, play quite a bit this coming year, even if he's not there backing up Kemp. I could see him maybe even going over and playing one of the other positions. But let's see how it goes with Malachi Coleman and Jaden Doss and some of them other freshmen. But don't count out Jalen Lloyd and Bryce Turner either. You got a lot of speed in them too, like we were talking about. So they'll definitely, if they play, they're definitely probably going to be on the special teams. But I could see if they could get the system down and the playbook down. That's the key, mainly when you come in this late in the summer. And I could see them making the field as well. So let's not count them out as they're coming in this summer and could find their way onto the depth chart behind Fleeks or Malachi Coleman and them. Now, to all of you that have left us a small $2 or $3 tip, I want to thank you from the bottom of our heart, as I really do appreciate your kindness. As you know, we're in the service business, and just like a waitress or a waiter, we totally depend on tips to help continue creating and editing and uploading these videos. Without these tips, we wouldn't be able to continue doing this. And for anyone that would like to show their gratitude by leaving us a small tip, and we're only talking $2 or $3, don't hurt yourself. Please don't go more than that. You could use the links in the description below, as we do accept the Venmo and the Cash App. If you also want, you could jump over and join our Patreon page, and then that way you could earn some extra perks and rewards throughout the year, which includes tickets to the Husker games this coming year. Again, I want to thank everyone for their support, and until the next video, go Big Red.